It's 11:23 p.m. on a Wednesday. You're lying in bed with your phone about 6 inches from your face, and you've just opened your savings account for the third time this week. The number says $23,400. You stare at it. You've been putting $800 a month into this account for almost 3 years. You haven't missed a single month. You skipped the vacation. You drove past the dealership. You ate leftovers on Thursdays. And the number on your screen, $23,400, feels like it should mean something. It should feel like progress. But here's what's been quietly happening while you were being responsible. 3 years ago, when you started saving, $23,400 could have bought you a decent used car, a semester of community college, and maybe a couch that didn't come from a warehouse. Today, that same $23,400 buys you less. Measurably, mathematically, less. Not because you did anything wrong, but because the dollars you saved are not the same dollars anymore. They look the same. They feel the same. The number on the screen even went up, but the thing the number buys went down. You didn't notice because nobody told you to look. Here's the thing that every financial advice column, every parent, every well-meaning coworker who told you to just save your money conveniently left out. Saving money, the way most Americans do it, in a standard savings account, is not a wealth-building strategy. It is a wealth-losing strategy with a nice name. The math is not ambiguous. It is not a matter of opinion. It is subtraction dressed up as addition, and roughly 140 million American adults are doing it right now, without realizing the number on their screen is lying to them. Welcome to Everyday Net Worth. Not a financial advisor, just math. Hit subscribe. Let's go. Okay, first, let's establish what saving money actually means, because the word saving is doing a lot of heavy lifting in our culture, and most of it is dishonest. When someone says, "I'm saving money," what they usually mean is, "I'm putting money into an account where it sits." That's not saving. That's storing. Saving implies preservation. It implies that the thing you put away will be there when you come back for it, worth what it was worth when you left it. But that's not how dollars work. Dollars are not stable. They are not fixed. A dollar is a unit of purchasing power, and purchasing power changes every single day. In 2020, a dollar bought you $1 worth of stuff. In 2026, that same dollar buys you about 79 cents worth of the same stuff. The dollar didn't change. The stuff did. Or more accurately, the relationship between the dollar and the stuff changed because the government printed a spectacular amount of new dollars between 2020 and 2023, and every new dollar diluted every existing one. This is inflation. You've heard the word 1,000 times. But most people treat inflation like weather. They acknowledge it exists, they complain about grocery prices, and then they go right back to putting cash in a savings account earning 0.5%, as if the concept doesn't apply to them personally. It does. It applies specifically and mathematically to them. And the math is not kind. Let me introduce you to someone. Her name is Maya. She's 32, lives in Austin, works as an operations manager making about $68,000 a year. Maya is not financially reckless. She doesn't have credit card debt. She doesn't lease cars she can't afford. She packs lunch 3 days a week. Her mom would describe her as the responsible one, and she'd be right. 3 years ago, Maya opened a high-yield savings account, one of the good ones, paying about 4.5% APY at the time, and she started depositing $800 a month. No exceptions. For 3 years, Maya has watched that number climb. She's at about $31,800 right now, including the interest. And she feels good about it. She should. That's discipline. That's real. But here's what Maya doesn't know, and what her bank will absolutely never volunteer. Over those same 3 years, cumulative inflation ran at roughly 11.2%. Her savings account earned her about $2,600 in interest over that period. But inflation erased about $3,560 in purchasing power from the principal she deposited. So Maya's account says $31,800. But in terms of what that money can actually buy, she has roughly the purchasing power of about $29,200 in 2023 dollars. She deposited $28,800 of her own money. The bank paid her $2,600 in interest. Inflation took $3,560 in purchasing power. Net result, Maya is about $960 poorer in real terms, than the money she put in. She saved money. She lost wealth. Those are not the same thing, and nobody in her life has ever explained the difference. We'll come back to Maya, but I need you to understand why this happens, because it's not an accident. It's arithmetic, and the arithmetic has a name. It's called the real interest rate, and it's the single most important number in personal finance that almost nobody checks. The real interest rate is simply your savings account APY minus the current inflation rate. If your savings account pays 4.5% and inflation is running at 3.2%, your real return is 1.3%. That's it. That's what you're actually earning. And 1.3% sounds small because it is small. On $10,000, that's $130 a year of actual wealth growth, not the $450 your bank statement shows you. $130. The other $320 isn't growth. It's your bank giving you back some of what inflation stole while keeping the rest. Now here's where it gets worse. That 4.5% savings rate I just used, that's the good scenario. That's the high-yield online account, the one you had to research, compare, open a new account for, and transfer money into. According to the FDIC, the national average savings account rate in America right now is 0.45%. Not 4.5, 0.45, 1/10 of the high-yield rate. And roughly 67% of savers in America have their money in one of these accounts. They're earning 0.45%, while inflation runs at 3.2%. Their real interest rate is negative 2.75%. That's not saving. That is a subscription to losing purchasing power. You are paying the bank, with your wealth, for the privilege of them holding your cash and lending it out to someone else at 7%. And then they send you a statement that says you earned $45 this year, and you feel grateful. That's the trick. The bank shows you the nominal number, the number that went up, and you feel like something positive happened. But the real number, the one adjusted for what dollars actually buy, went down. Your bank is running a magic show where the rabbit disappears, and they convince you it multiplied. Let me give you the Federal Reserve's own numbers, because this is an opinion. From January 2020 to May 2026, cumulative CPI inflation is approximately 26.3%. In that same period, a savings account at the national average rate of 0.45% earned roughly 2.7% in total interest. The gap is 23.6 percentage points. That means every $10,000 sitting in a standard savings account since 2020 has lost roughly $2,360 in real purchasing power. It's still $10,000 on screen. It buys $7,640 worth of 2020 stuff. You didn't spend it. You didn't lose it. It just became worth less while you weren't looking. Now multiply that by the $4.3 trillion currently sitting in U.S. savings accounts. According to the Federal Reserve's latest data, the collective purchasing power loss across American savers is genuinely staggering. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars in real wealth, quietly evaporating, while people check their banking apps and feel responsible. And here's the thing nobody wants to say out loud. This is working exactly as intended. Inflation is not a bug. It's a feature. Central banks target approximately 2% inflation as a policy goal. The Federal Reserve has stated this explicitly. They want your dollars to lose purchasing power at a controlled, steady rate, because it encourages spending and borrowing, which drives economic growth. Your savings account losing value isn't an accident. It is government policy. It's the system functioning correctly. You just happen to be the one it's functioning on. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Okay, but what am I supposed to do? You just told me saving money is losing money. Am I supposed to stop saving? No. God, no. Please keep saving. The problem isn't saving. The problem is where you stop. For most Americans, saving money goes like this. Step 1, put money in savings account. Step 2, that's it. There is no step 2. The money sits there for years, decades sometimes, slowly bleeding purchasing power, while the saver tells themselves they're being smart. What's missing is deployment. The money needs to move, not into a savings account, through a savings account. The savings account should be a bus stop, not a parking lot. Let me introduce you to Leo. Leo is also 32, makes about the same as Maya. He also started putting away $800 a month 3 years ago. But Leo did something different. He kept 3 months of expenses, about $9,000, in a high-yield savings account as an emergency fund. Everything beyond that. He set up an automatic transfer into a total stock market index fund. Same $800 a month. Same discipline. Same leftovers on Thursdays. Here's where they stand after 3 years. Maya has $31,800 in her savings account, roughly $29,200 in real purchasing power. Leo has $9,000 in his emergency fund, plus an investment account that, at the S&P 500's actual return over this period, sits at roughly $26,400. Leo's total is about $35,400. And here's the key difference. His invested portion isn't losing to inflation. It's beating it. Historically, the stock market has returned about 10% per year nominally, roughly 7% after inflation. Leo's money is growing in real terms. Maya's is shrinking. Same income, same savings rate, same discipline, completely different outcomes. And the gap between them gets exponentially worse every year because compound returns accelerate, while inflation erosion is constant. Run this forward 10 years. Maya keeps her $800 a month in savings at 4.5% nominal. After 10 years, she has roughly $123,000 in her account. Adjusted for inflation at 3%, her real purchasing power is about $91,000. She deposited $96,000 of her own money. She's underwater. Leo does his split. Emergency fund stays at $9,000. The rest goes to the index fund at 7% real return. After 10 years, Leo's investment account alone is worth roughly $115,000 in today's dollars. Total portfolio, about $124,000 in real terms. The gap is already $33,000. Same paychecks. Now run it to 20 years. Maya has roughly $316,000 nominal. Real purchasing power, about $175,000. She deposited $192,000 of her own money over that period. She's underwater by $17,000 in real terms. Her savings account literally ate her money, while showing her a bigger number. Leo's investment account alone is worth roughly $420,000 in today's dollars. Total portfolio, about $429,000. The gap between Maya and Leo, after 20 years of the exact same monthly contribution, is roughly $254,000. $250,000. Same paycheck, same effort, different bus stop. Let that sit for a second. $254,000. That's a paid-off house in most of America. That's a kid's entire college education. That's the difference between retiring at 62 and working until 70. And neither of them earned a dollar more than the other. They just sent their money to 2 different addresses. One address charged them for storage. The other address put their money to work. Now grab a snack, because here's the part that should make you genuinely angry. The financial industry knows all of this. Every bank, every traditional financial institution. They know that a standard savings account is a negative real return product for the customer. And they sell it to you anyway, with words like safe and secure and risk-free. And technically, they're not lying. The account is FDIC insured. You won't lose your nominal dollars. But safe from what? Safe from market volatility, sure. But not safe from inflation. Not safe from purchasing power erosion. Not safe from the slow, invisible, mathematically certain process of your money becoming worth less every single year. They use the word safe because it triggers something emotional. It makes you feel protected. And that feeling, that warm, responsible, adult feeling of having money in a safe account, is the most expensive emotion in personal finance. It costs the average American saver tens of thousands of dollars over a lifetime, and the bank collects every penny of it, while sending you a thank you email about your 0.45% interest rate. Here's a number that should genuinely haunt you. JP Morgan's Guide to Retirement, the one they publish every year, shows that $100,000 invested in the S&P 500 in 1996 would be worth roughly $2.1 million by 2026. That same $100,000 left in a savings account would be worth about $130,000 nominal, roughly $76,000 in real purchasing power. The difference is $1,970,000, almost $2 million. That is the cost of choosing safe. That is the price tag on the feeling of responsibility. That's not a rounding error. That's a house, a retirement, A generational legacy gone. Not because you spent it, because you saved it in the wrong place. And the subscription stuff adds another layer. Americans think they spend about $86 a month on subscriptions. Our research found the real number is $219 a month. That's $2,628 a year. That's just silently leaving checking accounts. If you invested that $219 a month instead of streaming it, at 10% over 20 years, you'd have roughly $165,000. So somewhere between your savings account eating your wealth and your subscriptions eating your cash, the average American is leaking about $400,000 to $500,000 in future wealth without even realizing it. It's like having a hole in your pocket the size of a retirement. Okay, before the comment section explodes, let me do the honest thing and Steelman the other side, because the save everything crowd isn't entirely wrong. They're just incomplete. Savings accounts are correct for 3 specific situations. 1. Emergency funds. You need 3 to 6 months of expenses in cash or near cash. Period. That money is not an investment. It's insurance. It needs to be liquid, stable, and boring. A high-yield savings account at 4.5% is perfect for this. Don't invest your emergency fund. Don't get clever with it. That money is there for when the transmission explodes or the company announces layoffs on a Friday afternoon. 2. Short-term goals. If you're saving for a down payment in 18 months, a wedding next year, or a car you're buying in March, that money should not be in the stock market. Markets can drop 30% in a year. Your timeline is too short for volatility. Savings account wins here. No debate. 3. People who genuinely cannot handle investment volatility. If watching your account drop 15% during a correction would cause you to panic sell and lock in losses, then yes, a savings account is better than an investment account you're going to sabotage. The behavioral argument is real. The Dalbar study shows the average equity investor earns 6.8% over 30 years, while the S&P returned 9.6%. That gap is almost entirely emotional decision-making. Panic selling during downturns. Buying in at the top during euphoria. Some people need the guardrail more than they need the returns. There's no shame in that. But here's the thing most people miss. Those 3 categories cover your first $10,000 to $20,000. After that, every dollar sitting in a savings account past your emergency fund and short-term needs is a dollar you're paying inflation to babysit. And most people have way more than $20,000 parked in savings doing nothing productive. The Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances found that the median American household has about $8,000 in liquid savings. But for households with incomes above $75,000, the median jumps to about $42,000. A significant portion of that is sitting well beyond any reasonable emergency fund, just losing to inflation in slow motion. They're not saving. They're hoarding. And hoarding cash in an inflationary environment is the financial equivalent of storing ice cream in the sun. It's still ice cream. It's just becoming soup. I want to hit one more thing because I think it explains why this advice is so hard to take, even when the math is this clear. There's a psychological concept called loss aversion. Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel laureate, showed that humans feel the pain of losing roughly twice as intensely as the pleasure of gaining. So when someone tells you to move your savings into an investment account, your brain doesn't hear opportunity for growth. It hears risk of loss. And the savings account, even though it's mathematically losing to inflation, doesn't trigger that fear because the number on the screen never goes down. Your brain reads a rising nominal number as safety. It reads a fluctuating investment account as danger. Even when the savings account is guaranteed to lose, and the investment account is historically almost guaranteed to win over any 20-year period. You're not irrational for feeling this way. You're human. The problem is that evolution optimized your brain for surviving on a savanna, not for compounding returns in a brokerage account. Your instincts are about 200,000 years out of date, and the financial industry knows this. They market directly to your loss aversion. Safe, secure, guaranteed, protected. Those words aren't describing a product. They're describing a feeling. And that feeling is the single most expensive subscription service in America. Let's check back in on Maya. She's been watching this video, hypothetically, and she realizes she has $31,800 in savings. but only needs about $9,000 for emergencies. That means roughly $22,800 is just sitting there getting eaten. If Maya moves that $22,800 into a total market index fund today and continues putting her extra $800 per month there, keeping her emergency fund topped off separately, the math changes completely. In 10 years, at a 7% real return, that account is worth roughly $170,000 in today's dollars. In 20 years, roughly $420,000. In 30 years, she crosses $1 million. She doesn't have to earn more money. She doesn't have to get a promotion or a side hustle or find a guru. She just has to move the dollars from the parking lot to the bus. That's it. The bus does the work. She literally just has to stop standing still. So let me bring this home, because if you're still here, you actually care about this. I respect that. Saving money is not making you poorer. Saving money and stopping is making you poorer. The act of saving is the first move. It's essential. It's the thing you have to do before anything else works. But it was never the strategy. It was the starting line. The strategy is what you do with the savings after the emergency fund is full. And the strategy, if you want the boring, proven, mathematically dominant answer, is move it into a low-cost total market index fund, automate it, and don't touch it for 20 years. There is no fee for this advice. There's no course. There's no masterclass. It's one sentence. Save enough to survive, invest the rest, and wait. That's the entire thing. The reason nobody told you this at the bank is because the bank makes money when your money stays in their vault. Every dollar you move to a brokerage account is a dollar they can't lend out at 7%, while paying you 0.45%. You leaving is bad for their business model. So they give you a debit card and a mobile app with a satisfying little graph that goes up, and they let you feel responsible while your wealth quietly dissolves. You are not behind for not knowing this. This is not taught in schools. It's not taught at work. It's not even taught by most financial advisors, because most financial advisors make their money the same way the bank does, by keeping your assets under their management. The entire system has a financial incentive to keep you saving and not investing. The boring answer beats the system. The boring answer always beats the system. So tonight, when you're lying in bed at 11:23 staring at your savings app, do one thing different. Check the interest rate. Then check the inflation rate. See the gap. That gap is what your responsibility is costing you. Then, tomorrow morning, in your pajamas, on your phone, open a brokerage account. Move everything past your emergency fund into a total market index fund. Set up an automatic monthly transfer. And then close the app. And go live your life. The money will do the work now. It's been waiting for you to let it. You had permission to save. Now you have permission to grow. The boring one wins. Hit subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.